All right. Good evening, everyone. Before we get started, we have just a couple of housekeeping items that we would like to share. Our webinar will be recorded and posted on our project website at octa.net/605 Katella for those who couldn't join us live today. We will have an opportunity for Q&A at the end of the presentation. Should you have any questions during the presentation and you are participating online, please submit your questions using the Q&A button, which can be found on the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Please do not use the chat feature in Zoom to submit your questions, as our team is looking exclusively to the Q&A feature to track these. We may reach out to you via chat if the team needs more information from you. If you're participating via phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and let our team know that you have a question. We will let you know when it is your turn to speak, and we'll call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. You can then press *6 to unmute and ask your question. All questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. At this time, Aldo will now repeat the opening announcements in Spanish. Aldo?
Thank you. Vamos a tener esta sesión en línea grabada. Para este objetivo, vamos a tener disponible esta grabación en octa.net diagonal 605 Katella. Allí estará disponible la grabación. También, como están pudiendo escuchar, existirá interpretación al español. Enseguida explicaremos cómo va a funcionar la interpretación en simultáneo. Al final de este seminario, ustedes van a tener la oportunidad de participar y hacer preguntas. Para este fin, ustedes pueden incluir sus preguntas haciendo clic en el icono de Q&A o preguntas y respuestas y escribir allá. Si desean participar por teléfono, deben presionar *9 para levantar la mano y luego presionar *6 para activar el micrófono. Muchas gracias. Back to you, Madison.
Thank you, Aldo. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kalina North, and I am the Outreach Manager for the I-605 Katella Avenue Interchange Project. Co-presenting with me today will be Leslie Tuatelapanga. Also joining me are other members of the Outreach team, Madison Viola and Angie Solaris, and a member of our technical team as well, Josue Valiente. So at this time, we will be providing instructions for anyone interested in hearing today's presentation in Spanish using Zoom's interpretation feature. Once the instructions are given, we will enable interpretation and begin our presentation. Aldo, can you please provide the interpretation instructions?
Sure, thank you. Para las personas que deseen interpretación al español en forma simultánea, en unos momentos más aparecerá en la parte inferior de su pantalla un icono en forma de globo terráqueo. Por favor, hagan clic en ese globo y van a aparecer dos opciones, español e inglés. Por favor, seleccionen Spanish o español y de esta manera podrán tener acceso a la interpretación. Back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again, Aldo. Appreciate it. So before I jump into an overview of the project, we are going to launch our first poll question. So our first poll question is, how did you hear about today's webinar? So the options are social media, city communications newsletter, flyer, or other methods. Give it a few more seconds here. Okay, it looks like the majority of folks on the call heard about today's webinar through the flyer, so thank you for participating. So we'll go ahead and jump into the first slide and begin with the project overview. So the project is improving the local interchange at Interstate 605, as well as Katella Avenue in the city of Los Alamitos. Some of these modifications include operational improvements to the freeway ramps and Katella Avenue for vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists. It will also close existing gaps in bike lanes and sidewalk infrastructure along Katella Avenue throughout the interchange. The total project cost is estimated at $32 million and is funded by local funds, Measure M, as well as federal funds. So through this, though this is an OCTA project, Caltrans, as the owner and operator of the highway system, will be overseeing construction, which is set to begin in late June and wrap up in late 2026, approximately an 18-month project. Next slide, please. So generally, construction will include the following activities. It'll modify on and off ramps to minimize high-speed turning movements where they tie into Katella. We'll also be constructing retaining walls, adding Class 2 bike lanes in each direction of Katella, reconstructing the sidewalk to provide continuous sidewalks between Coyote Creek Channel and Epson Way. The project will also add new traffic signals at the interchange and relocate utilities. So the addition of Class 2 bike lanes are shown in green on this aerial map. These Class 2 bike lanes will also connect to the existing Class 2 bike lanes on Willow Street at the Coyote Creek Channel in Long Beach. So these improvements will provide improved connectivity with regional bike trails, such as the Coyote Creek Bike Trail and San Gabriel River Bike Trail, which are also shown in orange. So a Class 2 bikeway is basically defined as a portion of the roadway designated for bicycle use with pavement markings. So on our next slide here shows a rendering of the various improvements along Katella within the project limits. You can see where the new bike lanes will be added with hatch markings to identify bike lane transitions to help minimize potential conflicts with vehicle traffic. In addition, the project will include freshly painted crosswalks, new signalized intersections, and a newly constructed sidewalk. Another improvement is highlighted in blue and is the modification of the northbound on and off ramp from its existing configuration to a T intersection, thereby improving safety for both pedestrians and motorists. So before I go into construction impacts, we are going to launch our next poll question. So our question is, where do you live? In Los Alamitos, Rossmore, Long Beach, Cypress, or others? If you can let us know. Give it a few more seconds here. Okay, looks like we don't have anybody on the call from Cypress, a few from Long Beach, but the majority of folks from Los Alamitos and Rossmore, and then a handful of folks from other parts of Orange County nearby the project site. Thank you for participating in that poll. So we'll go ahead and move on to construction impacts. So as with any construction project, short-term temporary impacts are expected. Generally, the contractor will be working on weekdays, but may also need to work on night or on weekends. So some on and off ramps will either have full closures or be closed for up to 10 days, including those listed on this slide. So these temporary ramp closures would allow crews to perform activities such as temporary striping, concrete barrier placement and removal, as well as ramp reconstruction. Some activities will also require lane reductions on Katella, which motorists will be asked to plan ahead for. Pedestrian and bike access will also be affected for sidewalk and curb reconstruction, and the contractor will be required to maintain sidewalk access on either side of Katella during this time. Lastly, noise and vibration may be expected from backup alarms and asphalt grinding, among other activities. And with that, I will turn it over to Leslie to speak on our outreach efforts on how to stay informed on this project. Leslie.
Thank you, Kalina. Before I go into public outreach, we're going to go ahead and launch our next poll question, which is, how often do you travel through the project corridor? Is it part of your daily commute, weekly, or occasionally? All right. No, Looks like it's a fairly even mix here, many weekly. Thank you so much for participating. So the outreach team uses several strategies to get information out to the community about the project schedule, construction activities, enclosures, and detours. One of the best ways to keep informed is with our interactive closures and detours map, accessible from our website. Once construction begins, this resource will be updated weekly, and you can bookmark it to get the latest information. We hold stakeholder briefings and targeted neighborhood meetings. If you are a civic organization or a business and are interested in a briefing, please feel free to reach out to us. We will also continue to host these online webinars as needed to provide important project updates and continue to make ourselves available to answer questions. We have a range of collateral, including a fact sheet and FAQs. We develop flyers and detour maps for specific construction activities and canvass them to neighboring businesses and residences. Our materials are also translated into Spanish to reach the broadest audience possible. There are a number of ways. Our project webpage also includes a Stay Connected section for the public to sign up for weekly construction alerts. And the website also has an interactive map where it is updated weekly as needed with information about construction activities and closures. And we also offer text messaging as well. And lastly, we are available on Facebook and Instagram. There are a number of ways that you can stay connected to the project. Our project webpage has the most current information. And if you have any questions, we are available by email or phone. And you can also find us at 605 Katella on Facebook and Instagram. And as I mentioned earlier, we also send out text alerts. And to sign up, you could text 605 Katella to 888-720-7016. Now, before we jump into the Q&A, we're going to go ahead and launch our final poll question, which is, what is the best way for you to receive construction information? Is it by email, text message, social media feed, flyers, or other? Wonderful. Looks like everyone prefers one of the methods, all of which we have available for this project. So thank you again for participating in our poll questions today. And now that concludes our presentation. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for the Q&A, which we will do our best to answer the questions in the order that they come in. Just a couple of reminders for our online participants. Be sure to submit your questions using the Q&A button, which can be found in the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. And please avoid using the chat feature in Zoom to submit your questions, as our team will be looking exclusively at the Q&A feature. For our phone participants, if you are calling in today, you can go ahead and press *9 to raise your hand, let our team know you have a question. And when we call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number, you can then press *6 to unmute and ask your question. And with that, we will go ahead and open it up.
Thanks so much, Leslie and Kalina. Looks like we're still waiting for a few questions to come in, but we do have one in the chat so far. Someone would like to know if the southbound 605 freeway on and off ramps at Katella Avenue will be modified as part of this project.
Well, I'll take this one. First, thank you for your question via chat. Yes, if we can go onto that map, and Josue can correct me if I'm wrong, though, but I believe one of those 2 ramps, if I'm not mistaken, will be modified. And I believe it is the southbound off ramp onto eastbound Katella. Josue, did I get that right?
Yes, Kalina, that southbound loop off ramp to eastbound Katella will be impacted with a 10-day temporary closure to widen the ramp to accommodate larger truck vehicles. Same thing will occur on that westbound to southbound 605 loop ramp, the one just above it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And as a follow-up to that question, will there be a traffic signal on southbound 605 at Willow Avenue?
There is going to be a new traffic signal right, if we can point the cursor to it though, but where the new T intersection will take place, there is a new traffic signal that's going to be installed actually closer. We have it right in the center, but it'll actually be installed closer to the new sidewalk that'll be implemented along eastbound Katella Avenue. So that traffic will help guide motorists coming off of the northbound 605 Katella off-ramp. That'll take you onto westbound Willow Street, towards Willow Street.
Wonderful, thank you. Let's see. Have a question here. Where are the maps of the new design? And actually, this map right here is of the new design, right, Kalina?
That's correct. So this map here provides you a glimpse of the improvements that will be in place at the completion of this project along Katella Avenue, really kind of focused on just Katella Avenue in terms of pedestrian and bicycle improvements and sidewalk construction. So this map is actually available on our website. If you go to octa.net 605 Katella, there's a tab called the Resources tab. If you click on that link, you can download this map there.
And I'm just dropping that into the chat right now for everybody.
Thank you.
Our next question is, how is the proposed Class 2 bicycle lane going to protect cyclists after dark?
Okay, I'll start with this one. Thank you for that question. I know that was I think one of the questions that was submitted during registration. So what is happening is there's a couple of projects that's going to be happening concurrently. The project that is underway now is led by Caltrans. It's called a safety lighting project, where they're going to be implementing or installing a couple of high mass lighting along the freeway in the southbound direction. As part of that project, they're also going to be installing street lights along eastbound Katella Avenue. In addition to that, our project will also include new street lighting along Katella Avenue that will illuminate the area essentially for bicyclists traveling through this stretch at night. So that's one of the improvements in terms of safety that will be in place for bicyclists.
Thanks so much, Kalina. The next question is the notices that may be sent by email, text, etc. Will those be standard Caltrans flyers as updates, or will they be daily activity and closure alerts?
Leslie, would you like to take that one?
Oh, sorry, trying to get my camera on. Apologies for that. Yes, so our construction alerts are based off of updates we receive from the contractor on a weekly basis, and we develop the copy for those alerts. So they may not necessarily be formatted similar to what you would see with Caltrans. I hope that answers the question. Or Kalina, if you have anything to add to it.
Yeah, let me go ahead and add on to that. So our weekly our construction alerts will be sent out in an email. Will come towards the end of the week, typically on Fridays. And what that will highlight are the major construction activities that are taking place or will be taking place the following week, the impacts associated with that, right? So if there's closures involved, we will also include that information as well as detour information. So those are planned a little bit differently than Caltrans, that they will be on a weekly basis that'll highlight the work that's upcoming for the following weeks or weeks ahead, should we have that information.
Great. Thank you so much, Kalina and Leslie. This is the perfect segue into the next question. The project website doesn't currently show how to sign up for email alerts. Is that available yet?
Yes, so to sign up for email alerts is available through our Stay Connected tab. It's a little bit towards the top of the screen on the project webpage, and there is a form where you could put and submit your name and your email address. And once you hit submit, that information will be sent to our database for our weekly alerts.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Our next question is, will you send this set charts to us through email? And we might need to get a little bit more information on that, but maybe Kalina, you have a good first pass at this one?
Yeah, if we can ask the question to the person who's asking it, what he means by set chart. Just wanted to make sure we understand that correctly before we respond.
Yeah, of course. So, I think this is for Mr. Wong. If you can go ahead and just elaborate on what you mean by set charts, either in Q&A or in the chat feature to the panelist, we can make sure we're answering everything accurately. Thank you so much. Okay, our next question is, will there be continuous through lanes at the new light?
Okay, I will take this one first, and Josue again can chime in if there's additional information. I'm assuming that what he means by continuous through lanes are traffic lanes. Um, so we're not adding capacity or additional lanes as part of this project, but essentially the existing lanes that are in place now will be reconfigured to accommodate the sidewalk reconstruction as well as the addition of the new bike lanes. So what you see there now will essentially remain in place with the exception of the outside lanes that will be dedicated to cars coming off the freeway. They will have their own dedicated lane.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's see. Our next question is, I think we kind of answered this one, but maybe we can elaborate a little bit more. Is the 605 freeway southbound on and off ramp to Willow going to be modified? And will they install a traffic signal on the on and off ramp of southbound 605 at Willow Street?
Yeah, I believe that question was asked in a similar nature earlier on in the presentation, but just to reiterate, the southbound 605 loop off ramp onto eastbound Katella, as well as the on-ramp onto southbound 605. Both of those loop ramps will be reconfigured, meaning the geometrics will change, right? And the traffic signal that we had discussed earlier, there is going to be a new one, and that'll be at the intersection. If you look on this map, if we can maybe, yeah, hover our cursor over it, will be installed essentially where that graphic is, that icon is.
Great, thank you. Um, let's see. And this is just to recognize another question. With this project, will there be a southbound off-ramp for drivers wanting to use westbound Willow?
Will there be a southbound off-ramp? This is coming from 605 south.
Yes. To continue westbound onto
Yes.
Willow.
Let's see. So yeah,
Maybe
yeah. Go ahead,
maybe I
Jose.
maybe I could answer this one. Linda, I think the question was referring to the southbound off ramp towards westbound Willow. There's an existing ramp there today. It's on the west side of Coyote Creek, which is off the image here. You see the Coyote Creek in the far left. That existing off ramp will remain as is, so it's technically not part of the project. So no improvements will be made to that existing ramp.
Great, thank you so much. I'm just going through our questions. Give me just a second because we've answered a few. Yes, so that also answered the next question about a new ramp making a left turn heading west on Katella and Willow. So that is not being reconfigured. Are there plans for full closures of Katella and Willow during the project timeline?
So if we're just talking about the lanes on Katella and Willow, there isn't any plans at the moment to have a full closure. It is my understanding that we will have a couple of lanes open in each direction when construction is underway. The full closures that were referenced earlier in the presentations were applicable to the on and off ramps, but not the actual lanes on Katella and Willow.
Great, thank you. And I think this one is a follow-up to a question we had earlier about that new signal. The eastbound lanes, except the turn lane, will they have continuous access, no stopping? So I think what they're asking there is if you're going eastbound on Katella and you get to that new T intersection, if the folks traveling through the intersection to continue eastbound on Katella, if they will need to stop at that light as well.
Yeah, I'll take this one, Josue. You can correct me again if I'm wrong, but that traffic signal will also dictate vehicles traveling on eastbound Katella. So if obviously the light is red, then vehicles going that direction would have to stop at that intersection as well.
Yeah, Kalina, while you were answering the question, I took a moment to look at the plans themselves. So in the eastbound direction, it'll look very similar to the way it exists today. Eastbound traffic will be able to continue through um, in a similar fashion as they do today. So the signal won't control the eastbound traffic, with the exception of the vehicles turning left to get onto the freeway.
Thanks for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Another question we have coming in is what is happening to the green belt and trees along East Katella along the Rossmore Wall?
Okay, so in this image here, you'll see the illustration, which includes some shrubbery as well as some trees. So in order to accommodate the additional bike lane as well as the sidewalk reconstruction along eastbound Katella, just before Epson Way, the majority of those trees will be maintained. There are going to be a handful of trees that are in conflict with the improvements that will be removed. I believe there's about a half a dozen trees along that stretch, the majority of them towards Epson Way, that bunch right there. That's going to be, there's about 4 trees in that area that's going to be taken out along eastbound Katella, right at Epson Way. And then also just right in the middle of eastbound Katella, there's a couple of trees there that will also be taken out.
Great, thank you. It looks like we're still waiting on some follow-up on that previous question, but as of right now, we do not have any further project-related questions.
Can we give it maybe another 30, 45 seconds to see if any other questions come to mind?
And I did drop our project email address in the chat just to remind folks in case something comes to mind later, they can always reach us at that email.
Okay, wonderful. Were there any other questions, Madison, that we received ahead of the presentation that were unanswered that we can maybe speak to?
Let me review those really quick. Think we kind of glanced over this with the full closures, but this is a really good question. A schedule on what and when things will be closed.
Okay, so since construction, I guess the question is when and what, right? Where these closures are going to be taking place and in effect. So we haven't started construction yet. So we have a contractor on board. The construction company is called Ortiz. They are responsible for developing a baseline schedule, and we'll have a sense of the sequence of activities that will occur once construction begins in late June. We'll be meeting with them on a regular basis to learn about the activities and then the closures associated with each activity and when they should take place. So once we have that information, again, we will be releasing that through our weekly e-blast or email communications to those who have subscribed. So I hope that helps and answers the question, Madison.
Yes, yes, I think it does. Thank you. We have another great question about pedestrian safety during for the new project configuration. How are pedestrians protected with these new walkways and no stoplights? What is the point of installing bike lanes when there's no bike lanes further on Katella?
So, looks like we're referring to the bike lane that's going to be installed primarily along eastbound Katella. So this bike lane that we are going to install will essentially close the gaps, right, that's existing today, and that'll provide continuous access for both actually pedestrians using the sidewalk as well as bicyclists with the new bike lane addition. As we mentioned, the project limits essentially ends at Epson Way. And beyond that, you are correct. There are no existing bike lanes past Epson Way. However, the city of Los Alamitos recent active transportation plan also identifies a connection where our bike lane would end and essentially extend it through past Epson Way that will go north towards Walnut Street. The intent there is to connect bicyclists to the downtown area of Los Alamitos. So there is future planning based on the City of Los Alamitos active transportation plan to extend our existing bike lane.
Great. And it looks like most of the other questions that were submitted prior to the meeting were answered during the presentation.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. Does anybody else have any questions that come to mind? We'll give it another maybe 30 seconds. But again, we really appreciate everyone's participation in this evening's webinar, and we hope you found this information very helpful. We will be sending out a follow-up email to those who have subscribed to this webinar, and the meeting recording will also be available in that distribution.
It looks like we had a last minute question.
Okay.
What was the scope of the project change from the original maps from a few years ago? It looks different.
So what I can share is during this was around the 2016-17, I believe, year where we had an environmental phase. There were multiple alternatives that were studied. And of that, this alternative that we're speaking about now was the one that Caltrans and OCTA, through community input during the environmental phase, was selected and identified to be implemented. I don't recall all the details associated with the other alternatives, but the one that we're presenting to you was one of the alternatives studied back in 2017-18.
Thank you. We don't see any other questions coming through at this time.
Okay, that sounds good. And if I can also maybe, if right before we wrap up, I do want to throw in a plug that our team will be out in the Rossmore community on Saturday, June 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning to do a very similar presentation. We'll have some exhibits out. If any other questions come to mind and you're local around the area, please feel free to pop in and speak to one of us. We would love to meet you. Okay. Any other last minute comments or questions, Madison, that you can see?
Nothing else.
Okay, wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate all the questions and comments received tonight. Have a great night.